January 20th, 2015, and I'm standing here outside the Kootenay Medecine tree, which is the medical marijuana dispensary here in Grand Forks. You probably have heard about it. It's been in the news recently. Some people seem to have an issue with this, whereas quite a few other people are actually using their services. I'm about to have a conversation with Jim Leslie and Marvin Wires, two of the people running this place or behind the operation, and we're going to find out more about that. Kootenay Medecine Tree, and we're talking with Jim Leslie and Marvin Wires, and it's what are you about? There's been a big article in the Sentinel that's come out, and it's giving the impression to people that you're shut down. And is that true? And what else would you like to get out there to clarify what the community thinks about who you are and what you're about?
Sure. I'll just start briefly with the description, and then Marv will take over. We can sort of flesh out what we do and what our intentions were. We started out as an incorporated business in Grand Forks. We opened our doors in August 2014, the beginning of August. And at that time, around that time, we were able to secure a business license, and had an inquiry from Interior Health, and they had no concerns about our particular activities dispensing medical cannabis and related products at this location. They don't enforce federal law. They were just looking into it from a health perspective. But long story short, we operated as a medical cannabis dispensary with a storefront distribution model, which is comparable to what you see in Vancouver, Vernon, Kelowna, and Nelson. So that basically ran from August to December 2014, and then at that time, based on, I gather, 2 complaints and 1 written complaint from the local populace in Grand Forks to the RCMP, that the RCMP talked to us about the fact that we were providing cannabis products without a license from Health Canada, which is correct, and they asked us basically to stop doing that at this location, at the dispensary, or face enforcement action, which is raids, search warrants, arrests, and recommending charges to Crown. So that's basically what had happened over 4 months. Up till the time the police came and spoke to us, we had a long experience with a lot of members of the public with diverse medical conditions, and we were helping them successfully take care of symptoms, regain their health, get out of bed, play with their grandkids more. The list goes on, but just generally speaking, that's what we were functioning as, was a legitimate gray area medical cannabis dispensary.
So something you just said prompts my next question in the back of my head is how many members do you have, and what's the average age? Because you mentioned grandkids, so that leaves us with the impression that it's mostly people in their 60s and older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're sitting up at over 100 right now. And our percentage of people 50 and over, must be 70-80%. Would you say in that?
Absolutely. Yeah,
it's right in around there. The majority is over 50 for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any common complaints that they're taking this for, medicinally wise?
Oh yeah. I mean, we get it's the whole raft of chronic pain. There's many reasons for chronic pain. But we have a lot of people, apart from, arthritis, chronic inflammatory conditions. We're looking at things like cancer. We have a lot of members who have been referred to us, and they have various stages of cancer, some terminal, some not. Everything basically, we see fibromyalgia, we see epilepsy in both children and adults actually. A wide range of conditions, like almost anything you can think of. We've seen examples of that come through our door, or from within our own industry and community, and other people that run dispensaries in this region. We talk to them too, and we're always sharing information on, this condition responded well to this product, and this is what this person reported. because that's where the information is. That's the real issue here, is that, you know, physicians aren't able really to provide dosing instruction. Some physicians don't follow up with patients when they're taking medical cannabis, and that expertise falls to dispensaries primarily. Yeah.
Okay, so the issue about the people in the community, the RCMP coming down, you're not doing any dispensing out of the storefront, I guess, for now.
No, we've had to basically take their advice, which was very plain. They said if you continue to provide cannabis products without a license out of the storefront, that the police would be forced to come in and do what they do, which is enforce the law. So, and that's understood. We get that. The Controlled Drugs and Substances Act is a federal piece of legislation, so it applies all across the country. Mm-hmm. The issue that we're looking at, though, is tolerance. And this is the key word here. When we talk about gray area, we're talking about dispensaries operating outside of regulation. And that means that through a combination of favorable criminal court decisions and through police tolerance and through, you know, essentially community need, when these three intersect, you have dispensaries that are, in essence, not given permission to operate, but keep operating under a protocol, continue to benefit the community, and they're left alone, basically. So that's what we were looking at, was hoping that that type of tolerance could continue in Grand Forks. You know, we think when you look around the region, there's places like Vernon, who has, I think they have about 5 dispensaries. Kelowna now, I believe, has 2, as I think one was just raided last week. Nelson has 1. Tolerance has been ongoing in the region for quite a while, and clearly there's no harm being done. So at the end of the day, ideally that's what we were looking for. So as of the visit with the police, we've had to take that advice and not dispense in the dispensary. I guess it goes against the nature of the word, but what we're shifting into is basically turning this into an information and a resource center, an intake center for new members and for people who are interested in learning about medical cannabis and the science behind it. And basically, of course, you know, our membership who are severely ill right across the spectrum, we're not going to stop providing access to them. We're just not going to do it here. And I think we've been respectfully asked to do that, and we have complied.
Yeah. And to raise as much public awareness as we can, to grab strength and support behind us is our main objective right now. And you know, with our dealings with the people, and you know, we brought on a little over 100 people in a short period of time, and a lot of locals here, and that's what our biggest struggle is with right now, is supporting our locals and keeping them in their medicines. And that we had, when we opened up here, the overwhelming support and the happiness to have the opportunity to be able to get medical marijuana here was huge. It was absolutely huge. And so our compassion towards the people here, we just feel we got to do everything we can to keep them supplied. And we're working to do that, and we're hoping that we will get the support and people come behind us to really realize what we're doing and how important this is for the people.
Right. That it's not recreational drug use at all, it's medicine.
No, it's all medicinal, totally medicinal. We really need people to realize this, and we really need them to get educated and see what it's all about.
Okay. In earlier discussions, talking to Mr. Leslie here, I was curious. I've heard a lot of research has been done in various areas on the effects of THC and CBD on the human health system. And I know that living here in BC now, the health system supports alternative medicines such as acupuncture, therapeutic touch, etc. And is there more science actually behind the actual medical efficacy of CBDs and THC than there is for these other alternative practices?
I'd say 100%. Yeah. Like we're rolling in research. There's research is ongoing globally. Every month there's new studies being done, cracking open one more secret in the cannabis plant, in those resin glands. That's where the real medicine is. We're talking about cannabinoids. There's up to 100 different cannabinoids. You know, we've only talked about briefly here about THC and CBD. We could get more into that, but there's over 100 or up to 100 cannabinoids. There's another class of compounds, terpenes. There's up to 200 different terpenes in cannabis. Then you look at flavonoids. We're looking over 20 of those. So the synergy between all these compounds is responsible for this vast therapeutic potential across a wide range of illness. And the science goes back a long time. Like, we have safety and efficacy proven going back 5,000 years in recorded human history to China. That should be enough just to show that it's safe and effective. But, recent studies have looked into all kinds of positive effects, and it goes well beyond. I'm not trying to put down therapeutic touch or any of these alternative therapies. They have their place, but we know cannabinoids can help delay the onset of Alzheimer's. And in fact, it looks like in experimental animal models, it can actually clear up Alzheimer's dementia to a degree. So I'm not aware of any other therapy that can do things like that and shrink tumors and kill cancer cells, and modulate the immune system and protect your immune cells against HIV invasion and so forth, and all these things.
Well, I noticed that you mentioned flavonoids, and as recently as last week, the news was all abuzz about flavonoids in chocolate, and I did see the reports and heard the discussions, and it was pointed out that actually the amount of flavonoid you have in a processed chocolate doesn't amount to much, because the processing takes care of most of that flavonoid and turns it into something that's not medically efficable or usable to you. The flavonoids, I hadn't heard that there were flavonoids in marijuana, so maybe you could expand upon that. And
sure.
How do they compare to flavonoids that would come from a cocoa plant?
Yeah, I guess what you see is, I compare it to the terpenes, that terpenes are expressed throughout nature in different plants and fruits and different things. So the same would be true of flavonoids. Now, they're not as well studied as terpenes and cannabinoids in cannabis, but for instance, I can give you one example. There's a flavonoid, and I may mispronounce this, but I pronounce it apigenin. And apigenin is also found in chamomile, and it's the primary agent responsible for the relaxing, calming effects. So what they found in studying cannabis is that even if you smoke cannabis, apigenin stays active in the cannabis smoke. So if you're looking at strains like Purple Kush or Legends Ultimate Indica, these sedative, strong strains of cannabis that tend to put people to sleep and help with pain and appetite, likely they have some amount of apigenin, as an example, as a flavonoid that synergizes with the other cannabinoids and terpenes and provides these specific medical effects that we get from specific strains or types of cannabis plants.
So the products that you're dispensing, or we're dispensing here, are they primarily for smoking, or are they topical creams, or are they things to be ingested in other ways? Or
Ingestions and topicals, basically, they're the main ones. Smoking's a small part of it, very small part of it.
It's one little piece. You still have people that do want to either use the bud to make their own medicine, make butter, make cookies, make capsules. People do a lot of their own stuff at home if they want to. But people that smoke marijuana for pain control and all this, it's I think it's getting smaller all the time.
And most of the boomers higher up, they're not into the smoking aspect of it. Yeah. They're looking for other means to take it for the effectiveness.
Okay, so you're not closed. Technically, you're not doing anything out of the store, but you're referring, you're taking care of intake for.
Yeah, we're very active here now, as everything we were doing outside of distributing the cannabis products, we're still doing. So we're talking to people, we're educating groups, we're doing public speaking. We're a resource center. We can help people, refer them to different scientific studies. We get a lot of reports of anecdotal information on cannabis and the therapeutic uses of it. It's quite incredible. So we're doing a lot of work that's actually not directly focused at dispensing, but very important, and sharing information, educating people, and then having a place for membership to come to still get that support, to still be able to talk to us about how they're doing. You know, it's important to have this. This is a community asset, to be very plain about it. It's somewhat of an outreach center for those who are into cannabinoid therapy, and they don't have anywhere else to go. Oftentimes, they may not have a supportive medical practitioner, you know, beyond giving the referral or diagnosis. And sometimes family and friends are not supportive. There's a lot of ignorance still. People see this as a recreational drug. It is not. So yeah, basically, we're doing a lot of work to keep people informed and to continue to deal with any issues our membership has or inquiries from new members.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Marvin.
Thanks very much.
Any last words you'd like to get out there?
Any last words? Well, one of the things I think is, and it was an article in which I read, is if it wasn't for the stigma that's been brought to marijuana and cannabis, it was put as if this marijuana had been just discovered in the Amazon jungle and was realized the benefits that it had, people would be all over it. But because of the stigma and that's been put behind it, it's really holding it back from moving forward. And that's basically what I'd wrap it up with.
Thank you.
Well, I think my final comment will center around why businesses like ours, dispensaries and compassion clubs, do this work. You know, people always say, well, if you don't have a license to distribute these products, well, why the hell are you doing it? This gets to the heart of why dispensaries exist. Dispensaries only exist because the government was not able to provide timely access to safe medical cannabis products. Simple as that. They grew out of need and necessity, and they address a gap between legislation and medical need in the populace. So dispensaries exist for now. Whether they're regulated by Health Canada eventually and are brought in from the cold remains to be seen. We're all asking for regulation. We'd love to be regulated. We're regulating ourselves. We're testing our products. But the main thing is people need to know that people who are suffering right now, people who are looking at a terminal cancer diagnosis, or they're looking at their new baby who's convulsing with newly diagnosed epilepsy, and these products are available, these concentrated products that treat these conditions are available at dispensaries with proper diagnosis. Why would anyone get in the way of any person benefiting from these products if their medical practitioner has signed off on it? When people need to look beyond just the institution of a law, if the law is bad and people are suffering and people are hurting and dying, especially if we're talking about little kids here, we should be able to get over that and understand why these businesses are existing. That's why we exist. That's why we don't have a piece of paper from Health Canada. They don't regulate the distribution of these concentrates and these derivatives that work so well for the vast majority of people, and they are not smoking them. Yeah.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Awesome.
And good luck
Thanks
with
a lot.
your endeavors.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, there you have it. Medical marijuana. It's here. Whether or not some people agree or not, there are people who are actually getting benefit from it, and people trying to put forth the medical case. It's not recreational drug use that they're talking about here. It's medicine. For GFTV, I'm Les in the Boundary in Grand Forks.